So, we were thinking we could move in with you two for a while, Linda said, sipping her tea like she hadn't ignored me for the last 6 years. I blinked. Mike's hand tensed in mine under the table. Just until we get back on our feet, Carl added, chuckling like this was some heartwarming family reunion. I stared at the salt shaker on the kitchen island. Not because it was interesting, but because if I looked up, they'd see the rage and disbelief in my eyes. We help around the house, of course. We're not freeloaders, Linda continued, as if that made this any less surreal. I hadn't been invited to their Thanksgiving dinners. Not once. Not even a text when I was in the hospital after giving birth to their first grandchild. And now, out of nowhere, they wanted a room in my home? We'll think about it, I heard Mike say quietly. But I didn't say anything. I just got up, took our baby monitor off the counter, and walked out of the room. I met Mike during our senior year of college. He was everything I wasn't used to, gentle, grounded, sincere. His love felt like a shelter, and after years of surviving a messy childhood, I needed that. When he proposed, I thought I was gaining more than a husband. I thought I was gaining a family. But Linda made it clear from day one that I wasn't what she wanted for her only son. I just thought you'd end up with someone more polished, she whispered at our engagement dinner, her hand squeezing mine like a warning. Carl wasn't outright cruel. He was worse. He was indifferent. He'd greet me at gatherings with a nod, ask Mike about work, and never once asked about mine. I tried. God, I tried. I sent them birthday gifts every year, even when they didn't call for mine. I hosted Christmas once, cleaned, decorated, made Linda's favorite casserole. She said it was edible. That was the only compliment I got. When I was pregnant, I texted Linda the ultrasound photo. She replied 3 days later, "Congrats. Hope you're feeling okay." Then, silence. I cried in the bathroom after our daughter, Emma, was born because they didn't visit. Not once. Not a card. Not a single gift. Mike would try to soften it. "They're old-fashioned," he'd say. "They just don't know how to connect." But deep down, I knew the truth. They just didn't want to connect, not with me. They tolerated me in public, pretended I didn't exist in private. And somehow, I kept showing up. I kept giving. Because I thought if I just did a little more, they'd finally see me. But it never came. And now, 6 years later, they were sitting in my kitchen like none of that had happened. Like I owed them something.
Like my home was their lifeline.
The next morning, I found Mike alone on the porch, rubbing his temples.
"They're serious, Rachel," he said softly.
They sold their condo. They thought they'd have time to figure it out, but the buyer wants to move in next week. I folded my arms, the wind slicing through my cardigan. "So, now we're the emergency plan?" He didn't answer that. He just stared at the yard like it might offer an escape. "I can put them up in a hotel," he offered. "Just until they figure something else out." I bit the inside of my cheek. "Do you even hear yourself, Mike? They ignored us for 6 years. They barely acknowledge Emma. And now we're just supposed to what? Pretend like none of that happened." Mike sighed, long and heavy. "They said it wasn't personal. That it was just complicated." I laughed, but it sounded more like a bark.
"Right.
It's not personal, is what people say right before they personally ruin you." Later that day, I got a text from Linda. No apology. No warmth. Just, "We can help out with Emma too. It'll be nice to spend time with her." I stared at the message, my stomach churning. They didn't see the years of silence as damage. They saw it as something we should just get over. But something in me shifted. It was small, quiet. I didn't reply. I just turned my phone over and let the silence answer for me. That night, I didn't rage.
I didn't cry.
I just unplugged. I deleted Linda's number from my phone. I archived every email and text thread that had made me feel invisible. I unsubscribed from the annual family photo updates she used to send, the ones we were never invited to be part of. I stopped reminding Mike to call them.
Stopped checking in.
Stopped asking if we should send something for Father's Day. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. But in that emptiness, I found something unexpected. Peace. Every time my phone didn't buzz with their cold words or passive judgment, I felt lighter. I stopped performing. No more curated Facebook posts to make them proud. No more forced smiles at awkward family functions. No more begging to be seen. I didn't explain myself to Mike either. He noticed, of course, the way I grew quieter when their names came up. But he didn't push. Maybe he knew this silence was different. This time it wasn't hurt. It wasn't retreat. It was a boundary. A quiet, dignified refusal to keep pouring into a cup that was never meant to hold me. And for the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a woman waiting to be chosen. I saw a woman who had already chosen herself. A week later, I picked Emma up from daycare. Miss Carter, her teacher, stopped me at the door. She told me about your homemade storybooks, she smiled. You write them just for her? I nodded, a little caught off guard. Yeah, it started during the lockdown. She missed story time at school, so I made our own. Miss Carter's eyes softened. She talks about you like you're a superhero. You know that, right? I blinked fast, trying to hold back the sting in my eyes. She said, my mommy makes magic in the kitchen and in books. I laughed quietly, pressing my hand over my heart. She's lucky, Ms. Carter added, her voice quieter. Not every child feels that kind of love at home. That night, I found Emma on the couch with one of our books in her lap, reading aloud to her stuffed elephant. I sat beside her, and she leaned into me without a word. It was such a small moment, but it held more warmth than any interaction I'd ever had with my in-laws. Later, I got a Facebook message from Mike's cousin, Joanna. We hadn't spoken in years. Just wanted to say, I saw the birthday pictures of Emma. She looks so happy. You're doing an incredible job. Honestly, Rachel, I don't know how you do it. You're the glue. I stared at the message for a long time. She wasn't part of the inner circle, the cold silence, the judgments.
But she saw me.
And somehow, that single message cracked something open inside. All this time I'd been invisible in one family. I'd been a lighthouse to my own. A few days after Joanna's message, Mike got a call from his mother. I overheard it, his voice flat, hers a little too sweet. She wants to come visit, he said, hanging up. Says they're thinking about moving out this way. Closer to us.
I stared at him. Now.
He shrugged. Says they miss Emma. That maybe we can all have a fresh start. A fresh start. Like the last decade hadn't happened. Like the dinners I was never invited to, the silence I sat through, the looks I swallowed. None of it mattered. Then came the email. Linda again. Hey Rachel, I know we've had some distance. I think we all just misunderstood each other. Let's not dwell on the past. Life's too short. Maybe we can reset? We'd love to stop by this weekend. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a PR statement wrapped in fake warmth. I could feel the manipulation in every word. This wasn't remorse. It was strategy. They weren't trying to rebuild anything. They were trying to reposition themselves now that their son had a happy life, a beautiful daughter, and a wife who was no longer waiting for their approval. Mike watched me read the message. You don't have to say yes, he said quietly. Not unless you want to. I looked at him, really looked, and realized he meant it. And that was the only yes I needed. 2 weeks later, I opened my mailbox and found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten card. The handwriting was familiar, elegant cursive with a touch of age. It was Joanna. Dear Rachel, I don't know if you'll remember this, but years ago, at my father's memorial, you brought me a blanket. You barely knew me, but you said, everyone needs something soft when the world feels sharp. I still have that blanket. I still remember that moment. I saw the photos you posted of Emma's birthday. The joy on her face, the little tea party set up. It reminded me of something we all forgot. Love doesn't need an audience. It just needs presence. I don't know what's going on between you and the family, and it's not my place to ask. But I needed to say thank you. You made me feel seen when I felt invisible. And it's clear Emma is growing up feeling cherished because of you. Love. Joanna. I read it once. Then again. For years, I had waited for anyone to say, I see you. And now, without fanfare or obligation, someone finally did. That evening, Mike came home to find me crying, but not from pain. From relief. I just needed one person to know, I said. He pulled me into his arms. More people know than you think. They just haven't said it out loud yet. I looked over at Emma playing dress-up in her fairy wings, giggling to herself. This was it. My impact wasn't in their approval. It was in bedtime stories and morning cuddles, in birthday streamers and peanut butter sandwiches cut into hearts. Love doesn't always get applause, but sometimes it gets a quiet thank you. And that is enough. Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. Mike was in the backyard with Emma, her laughter floating in from outside as she chased bubbles across the lawn. I opened the front door, and there they were, Linda and Charles. Dressed neatly, overly polite smiles. Linda held a small box, probably some token, a last-minute gesture to buy redemption. "Hi, Rachel," she said, her voice syrupy. "We were in the neighborhood. Thought we'd drop by. Maybe we could come in? Say hello to Emma?" I stood still. Not cold. Not angry. Just still. For a long time, I had rehearsed this moment in my head. A dramatic speech. Maybe a sarcastic remark. But standing there now, I felt none of that. Only calm. "No," I said softly. Her smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated, gently but firmly. "You can't come in." Charles looked down, embarrassed. Linda blinked, as if she couldn't believe I meant it. "I don't need to explain," I added. "But I want you to know, I wish you well."
Truly.
I just don't have space for people who only show up when it benefits them. She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't wait. I closed the door. Quietly. No slam. No fight. Just peace. Inside, I walked to the back window and watched Mike lift Emma into the air, spinning her as she squealed with delight. That was my family. That was home. And I wasn't letting anyone disturb that again. I used to think love meant trying harder, trying to be accepted, trying to win approval, trying to prove that I was enough. But now I know real love doesn't need convincing. It doesn't show up only when it's convenient. It doesn't come with conditions or expectations. It's quiet, steady, present. And sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing yourself. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I want you to hear me. You are not unlovable. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You're just finally realizing what you deserve, and that scares people who only knew how to take from you. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to build a life where you are safe, seen, and celebrated. Because you deserve that. We all do. And if no one has told you lately, I'm proud of you for surviving, for healing, and for still having the courage to love, even if you had to learn how to love yourself first. You are not alone.